I am presently working as professor with SRM University School of Architecture, Katakalantur, and I'm there as research coordinator with guiding over 7 research scholars. So one of my research scholars has also joined this session, and primarily she looked forward to the session by, especially by Lakshmi ma'am. She's way too impressed by Lakshmi ma'am, and I also am. So am I. And my previous students have also joined the session, assuming that research is really important. So thank you so much for giving me a warm welcome. About research methodologies, quantitative and qualitative assessment. Now, being an architect, I'm not much into text, and architects understand more of visual language. So I'll simply try to just go through it as a journey rather than giving very technical details. So basically, when we all are in today's time, we all are looking into the research and activity. Why we are looking into research and activities is one, out of interest, and second, out of the demand for research, because of so many things happening around. So we always go back to the fundamental question: what is research? As the name suggests, it is again re and search. So if I put it in very simple way, research is the scientific way of answering questions and testing hypotheses, which is done through a systematic and objective analysis and recording of controlled observations that may lead to development of generalizations, principles, theories resulting in predictions and possible control of events as solutions. And at for architects and for urban planners like us, it is primarily this, the research ends up into policy level interventions, primarily if we talk about the projects which go beyond architecture. So we most of the time end up into policy level recommendations through our researches. Then if we try to understand how exactly a research is done, we start with defining a problem. We first come up with a problem, which is in technical term as termed as research gap. From that problem, we try to understand the characteristics of those aspects, or the problem. And from that problem or characteristic, we try to gather data, which is very oral. And that is why it is called qualitative data, where it lacks figure at that moment. And then this qualitative data helps us to identify indicators or parameters, or the domains where the data could be quantified, or it could be the quantitative analysis, resulting a detailed quantitative analysis by application of various models or various methods. We end up into solutions or action plans when, if we talk about architects or architecture. And then that is again, there are certain things which are left, and which again goes back to research. So this is an endless process. If we keep on working on that, it keeps going. So basically, if we try to understand what is the purpose of research, it is mainly to explore, to describe, or to explain. Now this was these things have been taken from the research literature which is available, and I feel that it is rightly telling you, when we are in the stage, we are trying to explore the domain where everything is, the approach is unstructured, we are asking questions, we are trying to go through literature, and that is what is the exploratory stage. Whereas the descriptive stage is little more structured, when you go for your literature review, and a bit little more detailed aspect of it when you're doing your research subsequently. The questions also get refined, and the stages of your research are also more descriptive, and they are more organized. Whereas explanation, when we reach the stage of explanation, then probably our approach is highly structured. We know what all parameters we are going through, or how we are approaching the problem, how we would be coming down to a hypothesis, and then testing that hypothesis and working on the various aspects of research, which could end up into decision making aspects. So that is the entire purpose of research, to come up with some result which is more exploratory, descriptive, and explanatory. So there are various research methods. Now we generally have a confusion here: what is a research and what are the research methods? Now I will come to that question after few slides, where what are the research? There are various types of researches, applied research, experimental research, then ethnic research, ethnology research, a lot of types of research. But research methods are primarily two: quantitative and qualitative. Okay. So if we have quantitative method and qualitative method. Now quantitative method, as we understand, as the name suggests, it is based on the quantity of any variable or any parameter which we want to, by quantification of which we try to understand the things, or we try to analyze the situation. Whereas qualitative is more people centric, as in these are more qualitative questions. This is qualitative research is also called as market research. When marketing people, they try to analyze their information, how my customers will improve, or what kind of customers should come, or what kind of shop should I put up, those kind of research, or social research where a lot of social aspects are involved, then the research carried out is qualitative. Now there is always a confusion with, especially with architects, we architects, when we go for quantitative research analysis, or data collection, generally the data is not in numbers, not in figures, then we call it is a qualitative data. But then again, that is not qualitative data. You have to convert the parameters into quantity. That is a different thing, that is a method. But the research is not qualitative. Qualitative research is only people centric, where people's decision is the research outcome. Okay. Here we are analyzing on people. We are using the census information. If we talk about architecture, it can be without census information also. There's a lot of technical research which is carried out. Now, whatever is the case, whether it is a qualitative research or quantitative research, the method is again the same: primary data and the secondary data. Primary data again is something which you go door to door, you go from people to people. And secondary data is something which you collect from the secondary sources, which is not direct intervention with the information. So if I try to understand in the research process, my quantitative and qualitative analysis, the domain, the first rectangle shows that, that the basic research is first identifying the problem, designing your research design, identifying what all are the empirical studies in that. Empirical studies are nothing but the work which has been done in the same domain with some results, and a base of what is there in that particular type of problem which you have identified. A research is done not to repeat the research or not to reinvent the wheel, but to give some contribution or to do some study which has not been done. So there, the entire process, you do a lot of literature study that will also be done through empirical studies, where others works will give you some result. And these entire process then is either subjected to qualitative analysis or quantitative analysis. Now qualitative research is what we use in our research as architects. If suppose some market research is already done, and we know that these are the areas in a particular city where shopping is happening. Now why that shopping is happening, how did those shops, for that research has already been done by the people who have put up their shops, or the people who are investing there, investors. That was the qualitative aspect. But when we are using that data into our domain, designing some space, then that becomes the quantitative data. So that is how we do not do qualitative research. Then from whether it is qualitative research or quantitative research, there is an analysis of data and presentation of whatever are the outcomes into results and certain models, or some sort of output of that research. So if I want to, if I define, this particular definition is taken from one of the websites which is very popularly available on Google. So just to give an overview, technical terms, what is the qualitative research? The qualitative research involves collecting and analyzing non-numerical data, which is primarily text, video, or audio, to understand concepts, opinions, and experiences. It can be used to gather in-depth insights into a problem or generate new ideas for research. This is primarily people-centric. Okay. Qualitative research is also commonly used in humanities and social sciences in subjects like anthropology, sociology, education, health sciences, history, etc., where people's perception or people's requirement matter more than their physical requirement. Then qualitative research is used to understand the people's experience how people experience the world. While there are many approaches to qualitative research, they tend to be flexible and focus on retaining rich meaning when interpreting data. It is all about people's experience. Okay, so the qualitative research questions, somewhat which were listed here, since it is more into market research and more, you will find these kind of research data more with the MBA people. If you are in the institution, technical institution, the MBA people will do such kind of research, how social media shapes the body image in teenagers, or if you have some friends in MBA, they will have those qualitative questions where they generate data based on people's experience, like some questions which are resolved, or which are being studied through qualitative research is given here, like how do children and adults interpret healthy eating in UK, what factors influencing employee retention in large organization, XYZ. Similar questions. We as architects do not go for such questions, we go for more of data based questions. So there are various approaches to this qualitative research. One is ethnographic and ethnographic research. As the name suggests, it is based on the ethnographic, ethnic groups. You know what are ethnic groups? Ethnic groups are the cultures or people. Okay, then there is another thing called ground theory research. Now ground theory research is something where already some facts are existing through a lot of people. These kind of ground theory researches are done by English literature people, where they study a lot of theories which are already grounded, and then they come up to a conclusion as to what kind of research is that, what is the direction of that research. Then again is the narrative research, wherein where you do a research where you narrate the entire research or come to a conclusion through evidences from people, from narration. Okay, so that is again a qualitative research. Then phenomenological research, where when some phenomena had happened, and the entire research revolves around it. And is the action based research, which is cause and effect research. I'll come to these things. Now this is ethnographic research. These are some there is some paper or which is put on what is ethnographic research, where it is more of to learn about people in a specific environment more in depth than the observational research. Ethnographic research usually acquires the researchers' participation in the environment that they are observing. So this is again a type of research which mostly primarily doesn't suit us as architects. Then we have narrative research, where this is a paper which is talking about narrative research, the experiences of social media support in higher education. Now, this is a kind of narrative research where a narration is done through the facts and figures. Okay. When to use this kind of research? When you're collecting stories from participants, or you're trying to narrate a research or an incident, or a particular domain. Then you have phenomenal research, where again a phenomena is studied, or over a sample of population, where this is one of the papers. Just how to do a grounded theory study, a worked example of study of dental practices. Some, it is already. I'm sorry, I moved to grounded theory. Yes. Phenomenal research is analysis of the interview transcripts are conducted. One example is given, okay, where to develop a textual description of the experiences of the participants, a structural description of their experiences, of the situation, condition, and context, and it was combined to come to a result. So these kind of things are there, but this again does not go with the technical research like our research into architecture. Again, action based research is simple action research, which is more of cause and effect type of research. If some action happens, what are the implications of it, consequences of that action, is what is this kind of research. There are various research papers I've listed. One paper, the effect of teacher mediated vocabulary discussion during readout alouds. Was another type of, this was a type of research which was conducted and a paper was put up. So this is again not it doesn't go with us. So basically qualitative research is not what we do. We do more of quantitative research. Grounded research is where you are trying to establish the grounded fact from the various authors or various researchers who have already done a established research. And this is primarily used with English literature people, where they do study a lot of theories, a lot of theories about writers, about people. Then qualitative research. How is qualitative research? Those were the types of research. And what is the method of doing qualitative research? One, as I said, is primary data collection, and another is secondary data collection. Again, those two, if we, they are scattered as to one is through observation, then record keeping of various narrations or various ethnic groups or whatever information they look forward to in their research, or case study research, or it could be one-in-one interview, focus group interview, ethnographic research parameters where that particular culture. So the one on left represents the secondary data, and the one on right represents the primary information which is needed during the process of qualitative research as well. So I will skip this because today we are short on time. We understand what is one-on-one interviews, which could be done through various methods. We also understand what are focus group interviews. When we do technical research, we call it the specific group interviews. Then we also understand ethnogenic research by now, that a particular group or ethnic group is discussed and goes into research, which will give research to us. We know what is a case study research. This type of research method is used with a number of areas like education, social sciences, and similar. To some extent, we do use case study in our B architecture. We all learn how to interpret research from data from the case studies when we are designing or teaching students to, go for a new design or design a building. We ask them to do case study. They learn a lot of things from case study, and that case study research is a part of research. That is also research. Then record keeping, and we also know what is qualitative observation. It is basically observation. In qualitative terms, refers to 5 major sensory organs and their functioning, which might include the sight, smell, touch, taste, and hearing. Now, at this point, we haven't discussed quantitative research, but we do understand what is a quantitative research. So I'm at this point only trying to, give a comparison to that, where in terms of purpose of research, the approach of research, data collection, research independent samples, all these things, when we see qualitative or quantitative research differs primarily in terms of the quantity. Like in qualitative research, the purpose of research is through hypothesis and research questions, whereas in quantitative research, it is primarily exploratory research with general research objectives, which we primarily have. Approach is majorly measure and test in quantitative, whereas in qualitative research, we have observation and interpretation. Okay. Similarly, data collection is more structured because we have a set of data, whereas in qualitative research, we do not have a set of data. Then again, in quantitative research, researchers' results are very objective, whereas these are very subjective. In qualitative, as I said, it is more of market research. The results are more subjective. The samples are generally large samples, whereas in this case, generally in qualitative research, samples are smaller. Why? Because we are addressing a smaller region-based problems are to be solved with respect to particular, question, which is on a smaller domain, right? So empirical research is nothing but case studies or your literature review. That is empirical research. A part of it is empirical research. I would skip this because at this point it is not very important. It is more important to understand what is quantitative and qualitative research. So quantitative research, as the name suggests, is defined as a systematic investigation of a phenomena by gathering quantifiable data and performing statistical, mathematical, or computational techniques. Quantitative research collects information from existing and potential customers, or using sampling methods and sending out online surveys, online polls, questionnaires, etc., the results of which can be depicted in the form of numericals. Okay, so we all do quantitative research primarily. Now, these quantitative research, we do get confused at times that when we don't have data, we go and record what is the size of the household, or maybe what is the quality of whether the houses which are built are kacha, pakka, or semi pakka as per the census definition. Now, those are not quantifiable data until and unless you go on a larger scale, right? If you try to see individual house, doesn't look like quantifiable. But when you study about 100 to 200 houses, then you get the quantity. So basically, quantitative research is a process of aggregating quantitative or numerical data for research purpose, which quantifies opinions, behavior, attitudes, and problem for making generalization, forming predictions, discovering patterns, determining averages, and testing hypotheses or relationships as per the variables in between two things. So quantitative research itself is divided into primarily into three. The fourth component is more prominent now. One is survey research, another is correlational research, third is experimental research, and the fourth component, which has evolved over the time, is casual comparative research. Right. Now, what is survey research? As we understand, the research is primarily based on the survey questions using various types of surveys, such as online polls, opinion surveys, paper questionnaires, web intercepts, etc. Now, there's a lot of digital media, so that is also added to it. Yes, types of surveys are online surveys, paper surveys, telephonic surveys, one-to-one interviews. Now, what is to be surveyed is different. One of the types of surveys is this. Okay. Now, these more or less are similar to the qualitative research, but again, the content of what you're surveying is what makes it qualitative or quantitative. The domains of survey, primarily when we talk about quantitative research, includes customer survey or market research and marketing or community surveys or human resource surveys, industrial surveys or academic surveys, which will give you some data to, which will help you in designing a certain element as physical entity or designing some infrastructure or coming to some conclusion in terms of spatial planning or physical planning or community based planning. It is not at all people centric at this point, although it is taking people's requirement. It is not taking people's opinion, it is taking their requirement. Now, correlational research is again where you establish correlationship, is conducted to establish correlationship between two closely knit entities and how one impacts the other and what are the changes that are eventually observed. Now, if you try to understand two parameters, or suppose, if you have a particular question, suppose I'm dealing with disaster management. Now, I want to know what is the which aspect of the society is basically aggravating the disastrous situation. So I have two components. One is the disastrous situation and another is the component of society. In that component of society, I'll try to analyze my parameters. Now, one of my parameters is age of the people. So I'll try to see if age of the people and the disaster impact is going in which direction, positive direction, negative direction, or when data is skewed, it is no relationship. So that kind of research, correlational research, is called as correlational research, where you can correlate different parameters. Then comes the experimental research, which is more common with the engineering field of our, science and technology. We are part of science and technology, where the engineering fields are more into experimental research, into a lot of experimental ways, which could be pre-experimental research or true experimental research or quasi-experimental research. Now, pre and true, we understand. Quasi experimental research is one where you go for a similar kind of situation, which is not actually existing. Okay. So then another category of research, which is casual comparative research. Now, these are called quasi experimental research. And this quantitative research methods is used by researchers to conclude the cause effect equation between two or more variables when one variable is dependent on the other independent variable. Okay. Now, this is something, if you will know what are dependent variables and what are independent variables, which comes through the literature study and through the area, what you want to do in your research. Like you want to go for a particular area of research, there you identify there are certain parameters. If you know, you will understand the relationship between them, or if you will understand each of the parameters and where you'll apply models on them, and then you try to do some correlation, then you will probably understand what are independent and dependent variables. And the kind of research is more which involves both the understanding of dependent and independent variable. Now, this was one example which was given, or this was the method which is adopted in these kind of research. Now, if I try to again come back to different types of research, actually this should have been my first slide. What are the types of research? But then, since we did not understand what was the qualitative and quantitative research, we now understand that the types of research from this viewpoint, or from the research viewpoint, are many. These are application research or research or applied research, and then objectives based research, which is primarily descriptive research, correlation research, explanatory research, which is nothing but the qualitative research. Okay. And the type of which deals with the type of information, again, are the quantitative and qualitative research within that research, but then it is primarily the quantitative research. So I think I made this point little clear. It is overlapping, and so there is no very clear distinction. But as far as architecture is concerned and architectural interventions are concerned, we are primarily quantitative research which we do. So when we talk about the primary research and secondary research, as we discussed, these were the main methods by which we did the exploratory research, or the research in both the cases, primary research and secondary research, in quantitative and qualitative both. Now, something which is really important when you have to really discuss about your research or the type of research, the sample of the survey sampling, or because in quantitative research, if we talk about quantitative research, the sample is really important when we talk about quantitative or sample based research. So we have a larger population, and since the population is really large, we cannot select everything to be sampled or researched. So we select certain parts of it which becomes our sample. Now, what is the criteria of selecting that sample? There are numerous criteria, but the most commonly used are simple random sampling, where we randomly pick up the people from population, or systematic random sampling, or stratified random sampling, or cluster sampling. These are the four major criteria. We primarily, in my research, in most of the research, we go for stratified sample survey, or stratified samples. Stratified random sampling is what we do. Clustered sampling is again done when you have specific groups which are to be addressed, like you're talking, suppose I'm talking about disaster management, I want to take the views of the disaster managers, what is their understanding about the disaster situation. I want to also review the managers disaster, or the administration. I also want to understand the components of the social organization. So then it becomes more of cluster sampling. Okay. And another important parameter in your research is the survey questionnaire design. Now, this is something which I will not cover, because when I was seeing this thing, probably Lakshmi ma'am has covered this. So survey questionnaire design is absolutely important, which will give you the results of your research to its the best level of accuracy. So to conclude with this, we can decide the research methodology purely based on the elements of research design. What is your purpose? What are your techniques? What are your methodology or objectives? What is your timeline? What measurement you want to do? Or what is the problem which you want to address, and how you can address based on your preliminary study. So with this, I'll close this particular topic of discussion. Do we have any questions for this? Brinda, do we have any questions for this?
Participants, if you have any questions, you can post it now, because we won't have time at the end.
I think no, then I'll just go to the second PPT.
Yeah, we can move on, Dr. Neha.
Yeah. I'll just run through my journey. Now, this particular presentation was partly taken from my final presentation, defense presentation. So there could be a parts missing, but then I can take you through this journey. Now, this research is telling about research in urban disaster management, where multi-hazard risk assessment was the focus of this. Starting with what was multi-hazard or what is the urban risk management, we tried to understand what particularly urban risk was and how the multi dimension of it was there. Then from that, even before understanding the multi dimension, we needed to understand what is risk, which was a function of hazard and vulnerability. Hazard was something which was physical component, and vulnerability which was something based on the social component. So understanding the multi-hazard, now this multi-hazard research was taken on four hazards which were there in the Dehradun city, as Dehradun was the study area. So some slides have been skipped from that, why these four multi-hazards have been considered. They are considered here because these were the problems which were there in that area. Now these urban risks, when we are in urban areas, there are different categories of risks which happen, and these were identified from literature review, that these were the risks. And multi-hazard, then multi-hazard risk assessment was defined to put up a research aim, which was to evolve a multi-hazard risk assessment model towards URM for achieving resilient sustainable development. Now generally research aim, which I find with my research scholar as well as my master students, they're very objective with aim, whereas aim is more qualitative and objectives are objectives. So these were seven research objectives which were identified during the process, where the methodological framework to assessing risk profile, generating database, identifying risk indicators, urban vulnerability indicators, hazard, multi-hazard risk assessment, risk index, recommendations, and then the model for urban risk assessment was evolved. Now, the next thing which we were required to do was relate our methodology with the objectives which we have, which I had probably identified with my guide. So these were the different stages, and how I would be achieving my objectives was again related to methodology. This was the study area, as I said, Dehradun. It has a very typical physiography and geology. The upper part is really on the mountainous region, and the lower is flat plain. Now this was Dehradun with waterlogging, a lot of waterlogging problem in the central part, which is relatively flat, and this was along the seasonal rivers. There were a lot of river, what do I say, river basins, a lot of, but then they were dry most of the time. The problem was when it was rains, and 3 months of the year it was rains, and it caused problem because people occupied those areas. Then fire was a major problem in city due to a lot of temperature issues, and the city was very congested. So this was again urban fire which we dealt with. The fire problems got aggravated when there were other disasters, so this was taken into consideration. Then into consideration the landslide. Now landslide was in this part of the probably this part, but the upper part. But what happened was, because of that landslide, a lot of other things were happening in the lower part. The houses were damaged, an earthquake, a slight earthquake was felt, because landslide when happens, it moves land, it is nothing but a movement of land. So these were the plates which were lineaments classification, because of which a lot of problems were happening. Then we had the landslide, a lot of landslide in the upper region of India was having an issue, where Dehradun happened to have the upper part of the city, and a lot was seen in the upper part of the city, where roads were blocked, houses were damaged. Then waterlogging, risk profiling the waterlogging. So this kind of map was created, which was again risk profiled, and there was certain classification done. Then with respect to these problems, data was collected, primary data and secondary data, one with respect to hazard, and the other type of data was collected with respect to the social vulnerability, or with respect to people. What basically people had problem is was considered as vulnerability or social vulnerability. Then these were the secondary data which were taken from each ward. There was taken from newspaper clippings, all the newspaper clippings of people, ward problems as well as the disaster problems. So these are the two components: one where people, what problems they are facing in their ward other than the disaster, and the second set of data which was primarily with respect to disasters. Now this is secondary data which was primarily with respect to the physical data or non people data, which is standard data, which is obtained through secondary sources only. Then the entire the data which was collected was then studied, and a lot of problems, these were the some 9-15 problems were identified, and the intensity of problem were then converted into graphs, or this particular bar chart. So we know which problem is the highest. Like drainage issue was seen maximum in the city, irrespective of which ward it was. Most of the wards reported drainage issues, which got aggravated during urban flooding. And the other problem which was seen was governance. People were not coming to clean. So this is something which came out of that analysis of the data. Then based on that, a lot of surveys were conducted from each physical survey as well as the survey with respect to people. Questionnaires were prepared. So I'm not sharing the questionnaire. This particular slide was put up as visual survey. Then the questionnaire were conducted for 60 wards, and the population sample population was taken as 5% because it was too much of the city was way too big, and it was stratified, and random sampling was done. Means there were some areas which were which were taller buildings, so the sampling was stratified, and random sampling of the buildings were also taken into consideration other than households. The indicators were identified in terms of social indicators, economic indicators, and disaster indicators. This is again the result of the primarily the literature study which we do. We have to ground our indicators to literature study, which is very important. We just cannot go to an area and take up the problem and indicate it as indicator. We have to find its credibility or its groundedness to the literature. So this is how these parameters were also identified in literature, because see, we are not the only one who are working on social indicators. How far are these indicators established is what we have to understand. Otherwise, collecting data is really very difficult. You just cannot create an indicator. So that is called grounding to literature study, for which I really, it took me a little time to understand. Then this was primary survey, which was done. Each ward was defined. A Google image was taken. A lot of overlapping of maps was done. A reconnaissance survey was initially taken. A lot of resources were used to do this kind of survey. Over 2,500 households were surveyed, and these were my primary survey, household survey. Now I had made my survey questionnaire based similar survey which were available in this domain, as well as the problems which I could find from my preliminary study or my vulnerability study. So a lot was gone into survey questionnaire design. Then a major problem which occurred was this question was then, after one round of survey, this question was needed to be converted into Hindi, because people were not able to understand from about 6 to 8 people who were helping me with this survey. They were not able to communicate what I'm asking. So that was again a challenge. Then this was visual rapid survey, which I was also doing along with them, and this particular data was obtained and then again converted into quantitative data, as we were talking. And this we have already discussed. Vulnerability profile was established. Then for conducting a multi-hazard risk assessment, a methodology was devised where a study area is there. You have the base data, you have indicators, we have a lot of components of multi-hazard risk matrices, where each disaster or hazard was evaluated at individual level. It was 5 disasters plus 6 one was multi-hazard. It was really a very, very big thesis. So it came out to be a big thesis. Then how do we give a weightage to them is again AHP and other techniques were used. Weighted sum analysis and AHP were used. Then in tools, primarily GIS and raster analysis for spatial analysis were used. And each profile, I'll just give one example of one of the thing. Now, these were the hazard indicators, physical vulnerability indicators, social indicators, and economic indicators, which were primarily identified. There's a huge set of sheets which is there. After all the data was analyzed, there were thematic maps which were created, creation of data into GIS format and tables, indicators, data, and application of models. Now, application of model means if I have to evaluate flood disaster, it is just not the how people are facing the flood, but I also evaluated the flood hazard situation. So there were various models. In case of earthquake, we referred the model of Dr. A.S. Arya, who gave a real good model of how to understand the vulnerability in case of earthquake. So this is how the base data was created with the primary and secondary data sources. Now the one below shows the dam digital elevation model, and the upper part shows like how we have how I have conducted the primary and secondary data sources. A lot of GIS applications were used, and the mathematical and statistical applications were used. Then raster, a lot of tools were used, normalization of data, raster analysis, fuzzy logic, matrix. By see here it was in a way summarized that each of the disaster were also having their own individual models which were identified. Like for urban flooding, we used Hecra's modeling, Gumbel's equation, we used rational method runoff calculation. Then in urban fire, simple buffer analysis were used. So in all, this is how it was evaluated, where 4 risks were there, and each of them were evaluated with 21, 23, 34, and 16 indicators based on the literature review and the current problem which was there in the city. And this was the risk matrix which was being, later on, the whole study was evaluated in terms of risk matrix. This matrix was used. This was in all the gist of what was done. Earthquake risk index was created, and all these 4 indices were converted at ward level because we want it to be applicable at administrative level, which was again a little tedious job, but then we could do it. I could do it. And then we had different wards of high, low, and medium intensity multi-hazard risk, where the priority of these wards would help in planning. Now, this were the results which came out. Which particular wards are more high in have more problem with respect to multi-hazards or more priority, and what are those multi-hazards? Which one of them is more? So all this was part of result. Yes, and recommendations were done. Now this
यार वही होगा 6:48 2 मिनट से क्या फर्क पड़ेगा
yes, so this was, I think, we can have participants to them. Now this was the multi-hazard risk assessment model, which this was not the final model, but
कैसे मिल गया मुझे नहीं पता अंदर मैं अपना वो कोर्स कर रही थी एकदम से देखा कि ये चबा रहा था मुझे लगा कि अपना वो चबा रहा है लेकिन मैंने बस ऐसे ही नीचे झुक के देख लिया तो मुझे ये प्लास्टिक दिखी तो मैंने
Participants, please switch off the mic. Professor Brinda, you can mute them off.
Okay. So now this was the overall gist of what in PhD. We were I was required to prepare a poster for my there was some need for that poster to be prepared on my PhD. So this was the final poster, which in short told what was done in this research, where a lot of quantitative, qualitative, and all aspects were involved. So that is how was my journey. Yeah, I was talking about I can just show a few maps of floodplain analysis. This was the hazard which was done using various models. This took time. Then watersheds were established. From watersheds, hazard models, buffering of the rivers. The data was then converted into the ward level data. And then a lot of statistical vulnerability assessment was done. So these kind of maps were generated, and then it went into multi-hazard components. So each of the disasters had its own what to say its own analysis method. So that was in short the journey of disaster risk in this. So do we have questions? I mean, it was real quick, but unfortunately the time was a issue. Do we have questions for this, ma'am?
Ma'am, can you please talk on the conclusions? It was very fast at that time, and somebody was really talking. We could not follow.
Conclusions, I'll tell you. The conclusion, my research was primarily given to the Disaster Mitigation Management Center, DMMC, Dehradun, because they were working on some aspects of Dehradun, but conclusions were in terms of the broad conclusions. One, we established the priority zones which needed planning, urban planning in terms of multi-hazard, because Dehradun has a lot of issue with multi-disasters. So UN is investing a lot in them to identify how to improve upon that situation. One contribution was that, and second conclusion was were that since my guide told it's too much of data, so we try to take up one area and we try to suggest strategies to it. Now this conclusion was actually a part of my presentation, which will not suffice with this presentation. This was a presentation in one of the conferences which I took under TFAC. So they asked me what was your multi-hazard risk assessment model, and that is how I concluded the advantage of this framework, that multi-hazard risk assessment was the framework which I came up. The number of indicators and hazard specific assessment level can be easily added or removed. That is how my model was flexible. Another advantage was n number of hazards can be incorporated and integrated using risk matrix at the end when you are evaluating the different, categories of risk or levels of risk, high, medium, low, or very low, or whatever. The model may also be refined in further research by establishing the angle where relationship of interdisciplinary or interdependency of two hazards can be explored, which I did not do. My hazards were independent. There are so many times cases where when earthquake is there, immediately after that there is a lot of fire which is happening. That is the case of Koba. That we have Hugo framework which came up. It came up after Kobe earthquakes, which were followed by a number of fires, which was again a interdependency of two hazards. So this particular aspect of research was not taken into consideration, and the selection of indicators and quantification accuracy can be very high upon the data collection or indicators. See, so many times whatever indicators I have taken might not be the same indicators in your particular area in Chennai, or maybe in Gujarat. There may be few more indicators which are prevalent there and few more indicators which are not prevalent there, which are there in my research. So again, that the indicators, the selection of indicators is very important, which is based on your literature review as well as your study area. And again, the indicators were normalized before integrating, which was a Hercules job. So integrating quantitative and qualitative indicators, like as I said, a lot of qualitative was there, which was converted into quantity. Like you have yes, no answers are there. If I ask a person, do you have a flood? That person will say yes, no. Or sometimes then quantifying it, what percentage of people experience flood and all that. There was a lot of process in which we converted. Again, it was not people centric, it was not qualitative research, but it was qualitative data which was converted into quantitative data. So that is all in short.